Oh, welcome to Three Advisors in the Business. I'm Sidney Wayman here with Deidre Mercedes and BJ Handel. Welcome to today's discussion. Hey, how are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What about you, Deidre?
I'm doing good. Hopeful.
Hopeful. Yeah, I'm hopeful too. Good to be hopeful. Hey, so today we have a company. It's a custom metal fabricator, CNC machining company, which is kind of similar, I guess, in some ways to the company we spoke about last time, which was a plastic molding company. But the company we're talking about today is a $3.1 million business. They have strong demand, full production schedule, increasing backlog, declining margins, and the owner is heavily involved in daily operations. Sounds kind of familiar, right? Some to the problems that the other company we spoke about has. But the owner is doing 3.1 million, but he believes that he should be able to get to 8 million, $10 million, but his growth has stalled. They hired about 18 people, six machinists, five fabrication technicians, a couple of people on the assembly line finishing, a quality technician, a warehouse logistics person, but their total production cost is about 800,000. They have three people on the management team: the owner, the production supervisor, and a sales slash customer manager. And management salaries comes in at total management payroll comes in at about 285,000. And then they have one administrative staff person. They make 50,000. So their total payroll is about 1.1 million. Then you add payroll taxes. So their total labor cost is about 1.4 million on a $3 million sales base. Raw materials is 780,000, direct labor 816, as we said. Production overhead is 139. So the total cost of goods is about 1.7 million. Gross profit of 1.3. When you look at their overall operating costs, it comes in at about a million. So the company has a fairly decent EBITDA of 360,000. But and actually the owner is taking money to do, to play with a bit. And if you adjust EBITDA for that money he uses to play, it comes to about a half a mil. But the issue is, what is preventing the company from reaching its desired 8 million, $10 million in sales? So what do you guys think? Well, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about some of the things limiting them, right? The company seems to have a bottleneck in the CNC machining operations, right? It's operating at 95% utilization, and that seems to be limiting their output. Um, the like the company we spoke about last time, the production processes lean heavily on people with experience. And they're doing manual scheduling, right? CNC, computer, um,
Numerical something.
something. Yeah, yeah, but it's computer. It's a computer, right? So it's technology.
It's a
But
robot.
you have technology if you're going to use manual scheduling, right? I don't know. But so they it depends heavily on operator experience. The owner has to get involved. Um, One customer accounts for like 38% of revenue, which is similar to what was with what the problem the other company had. I don't think theirs was as high as 38%, but that's huge, right? Having one customer accounting for 38% of your revenue is huge. The company does not fully understand true job cost, machine profitability, and labor efficiency, some of the same problems the other company had, right? And the owner is heavily involved in scheduling, customer management, and problem resolution. So the question becomes, what's the issue? How does this owner realize his dream of getting to 8 mil in sales?
And I would first want to speak with the quote management team to understand from their point of view why is it if they're trying to do $8 to $10 million, they're doing 3? What is it gonna take to make that be different? What are the problems that they have when you go through the problems? What do each of the managers think is causing that problem?
Mm.
Why do they think that's a problem? Why does the production manager think there's a problem? Does the owner think there's a problem? I don't know that, but it's something that you really need to get and find out from each person. Why does the sales manager, is he comfortable with one client at 38% of sales? Because what it does mean for what that's worth is if you take away that one client, you have a less than $2 million client, $2 million company. And if you're looking to do 8 to 10 million, you have a long way to go there. So how is the sales force structured? How has he done it? A lot of questions. I mean, literally a lot of questions that are going to require some serious answers.
Well,
Yeah.
so Deidre, what are your thoughts? Or are you still marinating what we're saying so you can jump in
No,
and get things,
so this is a lot, first of all, because there to, again, to BJ's point, there's so many questions. Let's take, for instance, go back to the ask each manager. First of all, and I think you said it. Do they even think they have a problem? Are they, like the production manager, so busy running 95%? Does this gentleman or young lady come in every day and it's just, this is what I have to do, so this is what I'm doing? Or are there meetings that say these are some of the problems? Do we have data? Are there metrics that says that, there are things that are not, the data could be showing them that there are issues, or do they feel like that there are no issues? Now, the one thing that got me on this one was the owner of the company is very, very hands-on. So does the owner of the company even understand that? I mean, the owner of the company knows, hey, I want to make more money, but how? Because if the owner of the company is out there doing all this work, and you can tell by the 18 employees, that the owner of the company is probably, the profile already said the owner of the company is doing at least 3 jobs, if I'm not mistaken, which is probably a lot more than what the profile said. I'll say that it's got to be. But if the owner of the company is not able to sit back and look and understand what the problems are or how many there are, there are not going to be any answers, because the owner of the company is probably not doing management review. If the owner of the company is doing management review, it's not being done well. And it seems as though everybody's just walking in every day, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And we already know what that's called. And then you've got this company, then you've got this customer that is 38%. And let's not even deal with that. If something happens and this company decides for whatever reason, it will not give them their business anymore, or it cannot, natural disaster, who knows what could happen. Let's just say they stay on for another 10 years. Sometimes when you have a business, small business like this, a medium business, whatever they want to call it, sometimes when you have a business like this, the biggest customer, they cater to that customer. And I don't know the answer to this, but I have found it, that when that customer starts saying, oh, can you do this? Oh, can you do that? Oh, can you do this? They do it because it's their biggest customer. It's our biggest customer. So now what they're doing is they're running their business for the customer. Do they know if that's even a good business model that they may have, this is all conjecture, adopted for this customer? Is this one customer the problem? Or shall I say, is the way they treat this customer the problem? I don't know, but it's one of many questions that I would have.
And I would also say, if you started to look at actually scaling the business to the degree that they would have to do it, have they actually done any of the work? Looked at what do you have to do from a sales point of view, from a production point of view, from a financial point of view, to be able to actually accomplish what we're saying we want to accomplish? Because that's a huge lift. And they're not getting there. And my guess is if they're at 95% on a critical machine, you're not going to be doing a whole lot more business because you can't unless you got another machine, which would mean you'd have to get money and you'd have to get other people. There's a lot of things that go into planning if you really want to see that kind of growth. So these are the things that all of these things have to be brought up and dealt with because they're all very serious issues to go from where you are to where you want to be and do it profitably.
I think BJ, you bring up the point that I think is the most critical. And it's even, to me, it's even more critical than the owner being involved in everything and the one customer accounting for 30% of the sales, and that is the 95% capacity utilization of the CNC machine. That definitely limits the company's ability to grow sales because it creates, they say, it creates the bottleneck, right? So to me, I think one of the first things they should consider doing is pricing a new machine and seeing what it would take to add the new machine. The company has, positive cash flow, so I would suspect that they should be able to probably finance the new machine, get the machine. But to me, I think that would be the issue. The owner says they have strong demand for their services. Yeah, they say they have strong demand and a full pipeline of work, right? But that pipeline is probably that work is probably in the pipeline longer than it would need to be if they had additional capacity with the CNC machine, right? So I think, one of the first things I would look at, all the issues you guys raised, I think are very valid issues and things that they should definitely be concerned about. But I would say immediately, adding that other machine would help them grow sales by the amount that capacity utilization is limiting them to at this point, right? And then they could begin to address some of the other issues. I think it'd be interesting to see. Let's say they were to add another mill in sales, so they went from 3 million, 3.1 to 4.1, right? How much of that increase would that customer that has a high 38% of sales, would that customer's sales increase by 38% of the additional million, right? Or is that customer's demand kind of like limited where they are? And so any of that additional sales growth would not be from that customer. So that customer's percent of sales or revenue would begin to fall. But this is very interesting, right? It's almost like you kind of ask yourself, what, and I think Deidre, you mentioned this, what are they focused on? What is the owner? What is the management team focused on? And what's interesting is that they don't have and I think this was one of the problems with the other company, they don't have a human resource person, right? And I think we've mentioned this with the last case study we looked at, and it's probably the case with this one, is that, as much as people see human resources as a staff department that does not really generate revenues and is really a cost center, it the service it provides can probably really help with increasing productivity, increasing profitability, and creating a system where employees have to be accountable. And I think we mentioned this last time. It's like, how do you, how do you make your employees accountable? And it's probably through annual reviews where they have to set goals and objectives for what they plan to do in the upcoming year. And then visiting a year later, a year out, visiting whether they were able to achieve those goals. If they weren't, why? Um,
But I
and
think,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think that you have a very valid point on that one. I would say, and timing. Right now, what you have this, what they have is this culture of get it done, get it done, get it done. If you bring a human resource, employee relations environment in, is that person, or are those persons, or is going to now adapt to this environment? So I would agree with you, but if the objectives and the planning are not in line when you bring this person in, or whatever this person is, it's possible that that person could adapt and then start bringing in people who are doing the same thing. And you mentioned it, you said it, the reviews. But if they don't know what they're, if they don't know what they're need to review on, because they're just reviewing on what people are doing right now, how is that human resource? I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that you're absolutely correct. But how is that person going to be able to shape the new environment to a growth environment if they don't come in with the understanding that that, to me, I think what I'm saying is something like that, I think, should fall on management first.
Yeah.
and then saying, okay, now bring somebody in to start reviewing and possibly filling positions if we need them, or changing positions based on this new growth strategy. I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know that human resource will drive that, but once you get it in place, then, so again, absolute kudos, but that I'm just adding that I think that has a lot to do with timing, because then you might be adding another department that is just complicit in this churn. And
Well, I think that so I think so whenever an owner makes the comment that I should be doing 8 million, I could be doing 8 million, I want to do 8 million. Whenever an owner makes that statement, right, makes a statement like that, then to me they are saying, okay, I need to do something, right? If that is truly what they believe, then to me it's like the owner getting to the point where he's saying, look, something's not right because I should be doing better and I'm ready to do better, right? So I agree, that whatever happens, right, for this to happen, the owner has to own up to the fact that he's probably largely responsible for why the company isn't doing what it's doing. And so now, because he says, I should be doing 8, but I'm still stuck at 3, right? To me, that's him saying, like, it's time for me to do what I need to do to get to 8, start moving to 8. And so I would assume that they're ready to, they're ready to do what's necessary, which is like, let's map out the plan to get us there. And a big part of that will be to get the folks
Yeah.
on board and online.
I think
Okay.
it really it's important to understand and really look at this and see, are the managers that you have, are these people that are really, they're capable of managing what you have, but they're really not capable of managing a much larger firm.
So how do you
And,
know that though?
oh, I
I'm
don't know.
just
You have,
curious to
the only way
know.
you can do that is to go in there and find out. I mean, really, you can't do this any other way. You have to find out what they can. Why are they at 3 million? And there's a whole lot of reasons that the people may be stuck on where they are. But I would
To
like
me,
to understand from management, like, what do you really think these people can get you there?
well, so to me,
Yeah,
we can't answer that question until they remove the bottleneck, the production bottleneck, right? Because as long as I have a machine that I'm at 95% capacity,
yeah.
right? And that 95% is probably reflects maximum utilization because that 5% that you're not using is probably downtime for maintenance, other things, right? So if I'm the production manager and you come to me and say, why can't you do more or what's holding you back from doing more? The first thing I'm going to say is, I'm hitting 95% capacity utilization on this machine, right?
Mm-mm. No,
What are you nodding your head for? Shaking? You're shaking. What are you
because
shaking
it's
your
not a
head for?
good answer.
It's a good answer. It's an absolutely perfect answer. What do
No,
you
it
mean it's
isn't.
an answer?
No,
Yes,
it
it
isn't.
is.
It's a terrible answer.
How isn't it a good answer? You
Because
tell me.
I'm going to say it's not a good answer for this point. It's not a good answer if the goal is to be doing a lot more business.
that's
You
number
But
one.
there is going to be a lot more business, and I'm telling you, said you got to go in and add. You're questioning the ability of your current team to
yeah.
get you to that point. And I'm saying before you can before you can question their ability to get you to that point, you have to remove the non-employee related obstacles. And that
Okay.
machine at 95%, they don't have any control over that. There's nothing
If the
they can
person
do to
does,
push
if the person who's
more
running
through that
production,
machine.
no, if the person who's running production, is he comfortable with that, or has he gone and said, look, if you want to do more, this is what we're going to have to have. This is what we need to do. If
So
that's the
is he
case, then it's
comfortable
not
with what?
I'm
Is he
sorry?
comfortable with getting a new machine, or what do you mean?
Is he able to go to his boss, the owner, and say, look, you want to do so much more business. We're at 95% here. If you really want to do this, you're going to have to get more equipment. You've got to do more. Is the person who is doing that, is he saying this to management, or is he very comfortable with what he's got?
Well,
I,
I
I got
mean,
a question. I got a
I,
question. I'm sorry. I got a question. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please put a pin in that.
she's always sorry about jumping in.
I am. I am. But I want to ask a couple of questions because if it's in the profile, forgive me. I don't think so. First of all, do we know how old this machine is? It's one machine.
Doesn't
So
matter how old it is,
yeah, it
right?
might be because is it possible that are they using, is that 5% or even more
yeah,
down due to downtime? Do they have real facts on what that is? And number two, I guess because what I'm asking is, do they need an additional machine, or is it possible that they need a newer machine? And then when you have this, you got this customer concentration risk of 38%. And so you've got your operations proprietorize on basically biasly on this customer. And the other thing too is
You're making an assumption there. You're assuming that they're
okay,
prioritizing their operations to satisfy this one customer. They may be, but we don't know that.
and that's what I'm saying. That's what the production manager and with the sales manager should know.
right.
Well, yeah, but and I know that they're not doing that, right?
Okay,
They
so I
know
think
that we are not
it,
that they're
it's
not doing
possible
that.
we're secretly on the same page.
Say that again.
It's possible that we're secretly on the same page. But it's just that when you said the production manager is saying, "Oh, hey, I'm doing 95%," the question still begs the question. It still begs the question, why? Because
Because the machines have limited capacity, right?
we
So
got
it reminds me of, right. So I used to have a coffee company, right? We had two roasters. Each roaster you could do 4 bags of green coffee, right? A bag of green coffee is about 150 pounds, right? So we can map out, and this is what you should do. And I think one of the things they haven't done is map out, given like given we have two roasters, right? Each roaster can do 4 bags of coffee. Bag of coffee is 150 pounds. So that's like each roast is like 600 pounds. So we have two roasters. So we could do 1,200 pounds, right? But then a roast takes about 20 minutes. So we could do 3 roasts an hour, right? So if we do 3 roasts an hour times two, that's 6 roasts an hour. Multiply that by 600 pounds, right? And that gives us the total pounds we can do in an hour. You multiply that by hours in a day, that gives us our total roasting capacity, right? If we're at 95% of roasting capacity, there's nothing else we can do, right? I mean, that's our limit, right? The throughput of a machine creates the limit of your capacity to manufacture or do whatever it is you're doing. So they're at 95% on that one CNC machine, right? They're at 95%.
I get it.
Right.
I think the only thing I'm saying is that listen, I don't know how to build a CNC machine. I don't know how to maintain one. All I'm saying is that is it possible that is it possible? I don't know. We don't know that the CNC machine is old. Is it possible now? And then if they said that they needed more equipment, to your point, then if I'm not mistaken, that's a big machine. Do they have the real estate to put another one in? And all I'm
Not,
saying,
not, Deidre, now
what?
you're going far afield. Now it's like,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
how big is the production plant, right? Because
All I'm
maybe
saying is that another machine may not be, that's all I was responding to.
may
Another
not be what? Another machine may not be what?
may not be the thing that can happen in the time frame that this gentleman wants to go.
Well, what else could happen? I mean, okay, so basically you're saying he can't make it to 5 million, he can't make it to 6 million in sales, right?
Not at all.
Be-
No, that's not
You
true.
have to be saying that because the machine is at 95% on that machine. How can he add any more capacity unless he adds a machine? The machine's
Too many questions.
excuse me?
It's just too many questions. I mean, I've seen situations where they want to add another machine and they can't because they don't have the real estate, and that means they have to move the operation someplace else.
So now,
We don't know.
yes, we do know because
Oh.
we have to confine
Mhm.
our discussion and analysis to the
Okay.
information that's provided in the case. And the case just mentions that they're at 95% capacity on a machine. I think if space was an issue, the case would say not only is the machine limiting production, but also the production facility is limiting production. So I think
Got you.
given what the case is telling us, I think it's more the machine.
Got you. I got you.
That's my interpretation.
Okay. I got
And,
you.
and so yeah, so to me, I think that machine is the critical point. Getting a new machine. Now you said, okay, well, could you get a new machine that has greater capacity or greater productivity, right? And maybe it is, but you can't give it the old machine and replace it with the new machine because you want to go to 8 to 10 million in sales. You're at 3 now. If you're at 95% capacity with that current machine, adding a new machine, unless that new machine is like what, 3 or 4 times more productive than the current machine, that new machine is not going to get you to where you want to go. So you probably need both machines.
And if you get the machine, your salespeople have to be able to you got to be able to use the machine. I mean, to get to the point where he's trying to get to, it requires a lot of different things within the business. I agree with you on the machine. If you have 95% of your production used, you don't have a lot of places to go. If somebody's saying, why aren't I doing $10 million? There's a lot of reasons he's not. That's clearly one of them.
That's one of them.
If you get it, you've got to have a lot of other things to go with it to make it work.
But the thing is, right? If when I read the central question is that they have strong demand and a full pipeline of work. So to me, that says that they have demand for their service. There's demand, right?
But I guess all I'm saying is, do you have 3 times demand? Do you have 3 times the demand of what you've got? I mean, seriously, there's a very big difference between having demand at one level and having it at 3 times higher.
But we don't know how
But
much
that's what
higher.
he's trying to do. He's trying to get to a point that's way different than where he's at.
Right, but I guess my thing would be, and I prefaced this when I started my making my point, is that we don't know what a full pipeline means, right?
Right.
We don't know, right? So it could be it's a full pipeline because that 95% capacity limitation on a machine is making it much longer for them to get product in and out, right? But I guess my thing would be if they have strong demand and a full pipeline, the new machine, that's it, right? That's the first thing you do is get the new machine, in my opinion.
Okay.
Right? It's a new machine and get it working, right? Now with that gets back to making sure you get the new machine, your sales are going to go up incrementally almost immediately. Right? Because you can get that pipeline, you can get a lot of that pipeline through. Once that happens, right, I think it gets to bringing on that person, whether it's human resource or whatever you want to call this person, but someone to help. And this is a problem I think a lot of small business people have, right? You start out, you get the business going, you do what you do well, right? And let's say you're fortunate enough that you start the business, you build up your sales, you get to like 2 or 3 million, and you're able to do that primarily because of you and some of the people you have working for you, but you never have the time to develop the policies and the procedures and all the things that codify how you do stuff and why you do stuff. So when you bring people in, they're learning on the job. They're watching somebody, right? If nobody's there, they can't do anything because there's no manual that says, okay, to turn this machine on, you first hit this button, then you turn this dial, then you lift this lever. If that's not written somewhere, then if the experienced person isn't there to tell the person to hit the button, turn the dial, and lift the lever, then that new person
That's one of the
either,
first things that has to change. That is one of the first things. Because
well,
you've got
that's the second thing. The first thing is they got to get the new machine. That's the first thing. And then
and then you got to recruit, because if I'm not mistaken, it said the CNC at this company takes 5 or 6 people to run. So now the HR person,
they have that many CNC machinists, I think is what they said. I don't know if one machine requires that many people. I don't think so. They have 6 machines.
So
you gotta have to sit down with people and go through this. Yeah.
Say that again?
No, you have to find out. I mean, we're going to have to sit down and go through it. You have to go look at each one and see. What you're saying and what Sydney's saying are basically the same thing. You get the machine, you're going to have the people. If you get the machine and there are orders there to continue to use it, then you've got to get the people to handle it. I don't know how many that's going to be. We're going to find that out pretty quickly.
You're going to find out pretty quickly. And then again, it's the same question. How old is the machine? Because if you get a new machine, if this machine is, well, I don't know how old the business is, it doesn't matter. Maybe I don't know. If you get a different machine because they don't make that machine anymore, or, whatever, now you've got a completely different machine with completely different, not completely, but with
the machine isn't that old.
That's fine. I'm just saying it might be different. I'm just
saying that the machinery isn't that old. Because the machine, their machinery and equipment, the value of the machinery and equipment, the gross value is 2.4 million. Accumulated depreciation is only 1 million. So it's not even 50% of the useful life yet, right?
Okay,
So the machinery isn't that old. Now, technology moves kind of quickly,
thank
right?
you.
But I would say this machinery is still fairly up to date.
I wasn't worried about, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm looking at the balance sheet now. The other thing is they have accounts receivable of a 500,000 and inventory of 600,000. So they're not managing their working capital that well, which is the same problem the other company had, right? So, I would say one of the things they need to do is take a look at their turnovers and see if they can increase their receivable and inventory turnover, right? But we know they can't do much about the inventory turnover because they're already at 95% capacity on that one machine. So they can't really push more stuff through. They can't really, push more inventory through it. So, hmm,
So yeah, I would agree that, with better procedures, with better communication in terms of, what's actually happening on a weekly, monthly basis. I don't know what those meetings may look like. The assumption is that if they're running at that capacity and even the owner is out there doing this work, and with 18 employees, they're not having that many meetings. They're just running. It's an assumption, but this profile doesn't say anything about uh, any time that's being spent or money that's being spent on planning. So I'm assuming that maybe they don't know that it's happening. Maybe planning only happens
money spent on what?
planning.
Honey,
Oh, planning.
yeah,
Well,
Planning.
so it's interesting in a production facility, planning is all about production planning,
Yeah.
right? And
Well,
and I don't know. Um, it is mentioned that, pardon me, it is mentioned that the average job lead time is 6 to 8 weeks, which is to me, that's kind of long, right? And that could partly explain the inventory, the buildup in inventory. But the other thing is like the bottleneck machine utilization rate is 95%, but the overall machine utilization rate is 85%. So even if you didn't have the bottleneck at the CNC machine at 95%, if your machine utilization rate is 85%, you're already bumping up against you can't grow. You can't grow much more anyway. Now, of course, we don't know how many shifts they're running, right? If they're at 85% and they're only operating at an 8-hour day, then they could double sales just by adding another shift, right? Those are some things that we don't know. But you know, it would seem that they definitely need another machine, CNC machine for sure. And it would probably be the case if they were to invest in a CNC machine and take the utilization rate on that machine from 95 to, let's say, 50%, the other machines would probably hit a utilization rate of 95% because the CNC machine would the capacity of that new CNC machine would reduce its utilization rate, which would allow the CNC machine to produce more and so add more to the other machines that are already at 85%. So it's an interesting case. Interesting case.
do we
Um,
have any insight or uh, guesses into how much rework?
I don't think they really mentioned that.
No, see that either. Because 95%, I would question how much of that is do over or, and it doesn't say. It doesn't say. And I know that there's they've got some money into OEM,
Well, no, it does say as volume increases, this leads to delays plus rework plus inefficiency. So there is some rework,
but how much?
but they don't really say how much rework.
Right.
Um,
And the reason I asked is that I had an experience where I was at a company, it was printed circuit boards back in the day, but still to me relevant. And they had so much rework that they were turning away new customers.
Yeah.
I don't think they're in business.
Well, yeah, and it says some jobs are profitable, other jobs aren't. So some of the jobs they're manufacturing don't make money.
Right,
Why? Okay.
right, exactly.
Why
What
is
is
that?
that?
Probably,
Why
I
is
mean,
that?
a lot of reasons that can be, but it could be rework. It could be pricing. It could be the structure of the sales. There's a lot of reasons that could happen, but that's happening.
And then if you do have a lot of rework and then you have to deal with the supply chain in your OEMs and logistics and whatnot, who knows how many bottlenecks, all the bottleneck may not be in the machining, it could be in some other stuff. But again,
Interesting you guys mentioned rework when I had a coffee company, right? So sometimes you would get for our major customer, we had to produce to specific standards, right? The color of the coffee had to be within a certain range. The grind had to be within a certain range. The moisture level had to be within a certain range. And over the course of time, we had built up quite a bit of rework, right? Which is coffee that was roasted and ground, but was either too moist, too dark, too light, wrong kind of grind. So we may have had like maybe 500 or 600 pounds of rework, right? Now with coffee, like when you roast it, you have shrink. So a pound of coffee, you get if you had a pound of coffee, you would get 85% of that pound in the final product, right? But we had this huge, we had like barrels and barrels of rework. Now, most companies that you might sell coffee to will say that you can add, up to maybe 3 or 4%, maybe 5% of rework to what you're giving them now, right? So we built up so much rework that we got to the point where we said, okay, let's start pushing this rework back into the system. We had like a few days of production where we had, instead of having a negative shrink, we had a positive shrink. So 1 pound of roasted coffee, we got like uh, a pound and a half of final product, right? Well, it couldn't have been that much because we had to limit how much we could put in, but it was amazing. I mean, but that's coffee, right? Uh, I can't imagine how rework in this in a production facility um, would not be costly, right? Because you can't add it back. Like with coffee, you add it back to your final product. With this, you're reworking that same piece of equipment. Um, and so the cost of fixing that piece or getting that piece out increases. But
or replacing it's still expensive.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which is why you need
So
that new machine.
right. Okay, and I think you're right. I think you're right. I think that would hopefully fix it. Uh, but if you have all these other things and they're not writing documentation and they're not um reviewing production and getting proper metrics and doing proper planning, uh they're going to scale their production without scaling efficiency. So there's a lot of things that still have to happen, not just along with the new machine and the addition to the new people to run the machine and HR to motivate and counsel the new people running the machine, which is all expensive.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting and amazing how common many of the issues and problems small business people face, how common they are across companies, right? Like the two companies we've talked about so far both suffer from some of the same problems and issues. Similar kinds of businesses, plastic molding, machine fabrication, um, and the same kinds of problems. Hey, I should be at 10 million sales. I should be, much more, but they get caught up at about the $3-4 million level. And it makes it difficult for them to move much beyond that. So um,
Well, I think that uh, as usual, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of assumptions. And you're right. I'm assuming that there may or may not be my assumption. I don't know. Is there room, real estate for a new machine? Is there, uh, can they ramp up their quality systems to handle, uh, operating a new machine? Or are they just going to ramp up the issues, and the problems? I still go back to timing, and what management, and that means, the owner and the other three, I think it was three other people on the management team, if I'm not mistaken. Um, how are they going to change the way they do business? At what point are they going to get to actually managing the business as opposed to being out there, running the business, doing the same thing that everybody else is doing.
And
Um,
the planning to scale the business in all facets of the business. If you want to do that kind of sales, plan it. You have to have a
you have to
plan
plan.
of how you're going to do the entire business. It just,
Right.
you can't pull a piece at a time. It's gonna have to be more.
Yeah, that whole plan of how that's going to happen, and you can't do that without first really understanding what's the problem today.
Right. I
Because
agree.
again, you're just planning in inefficiencies.
Yeah.
So again, I'm still getting back to timing. You can make all these changes, but the timing of which you make them is, to me, is also critical. Because if you make a change before you have the right information, once again, you're just, more is not necessarily better. It's just more.
It would be nice to be able to make changes according to a plan that takes the whole company up and lifts the company up, as opposed to we'll make
Yes.
part of the company work, but well, then we'll go figure out what's wrong over here. That
No,
will help
because
the whole thing.
yeah, because everything is or should be interconnected.
Yeah.
Everything, one thing, it's a domino effect. You do one thing, it's going to impact negatively or positively affect something else.
Yeah,
So
and what you were saying, Sydney, about small businesses, it really does, a lot of it come down to being able to say, not just that I want to do this much business, but I'm going to plan to do it. We have to really set out how we're going to accomplish it more than just this is what I'd like to see us do.
Mhm.
There's a whole bunch of
mhm.
that, and it's not simple. It's good though. It's a good thing to do. However, when someone says, "Why aren't I doing this?" I think you could find a lot of reasons why that's the case.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's so many questions. I don't see information in here about process,
Yeah.
reliability. I don't see a lot of information in here about, um, excess material or deficiencies or defective material and scrap and what those things look like. I don't see a lot of information about, there's a lot of operational accounting information, but not a lot of information about, how things are progressing.
Yeah.
Or just understanding the metrics of day-to-day operations and what's failing.
Sounds good, y'all. I guess we can recap as we wind down today's episode. I guess, like the previous discussion, this discussion focused on documentation, planning, having the processes and procedures that are used to operate the machines lined up so new employees don't have to depend wholeheartedly on the more experienced employees. The owner could maybe step out of the business a bit with these policies and procedures in place. He wouldn't have to be there as hands-on as he is. So, those are some of the things you guys suggested the company may need to do. Mercedes is like timing is an important issue. And so, yeah, I agree with all of that. All that is very important after they buy the new equipment and get that squared away. But no, I mean, I think I think this company is a clear illustration of how companies get to that $3 or $4 million level and stall because the owner is still heavily involved in everything. They haven't gotten to the point where they document the processes and procedures that are used in the company. And in this example, there's definitely a production constraint created by that one piece of equipment. So it's kind of interesting. So what's even more interesting, though, is in our next episode, we have a different kind of company. We'll be talking about a commercial landscaping and property management company. So it'll be taking us away from these light manufacturers and give us some different kinds of challenges and issues small business people might have. So I'm looking forward to that discussion. But we like to call it an end. I'd like to thank Deidre, Mercedes, and BJ Handel. Thank you guys.
Thank
for
you,
another,
Sydney.
for another discussion. I'd like to thank you, the listening audience, for tuning in, checking in. And until next time, I'm Sydney Wayman, and you've been listening to 3 Advisors and a Business. Good day, everyone.
Good day.